Welcome to Liberty, the Struggle of 1776. You must govern states, run an army, and keep a spiritual compass while preventing others from doing the same. Liberty teaches you and your family about the struggle for freedom, the vision and fortitude of our founding fathers, all while having fun in the traditions we grew up with. You are one of the 7 founding fathers, struggling to manage the same objectives that were present in 1776. The British are experienced, organized, and well-equipped. In order to defeat them, you'll need to be successful in all of your objectives. Each card you draw impacts not only your goals, but your competitors as well. Sometimes you'll want to trade with your opponents, other times steal from them, or even disable their advancement. I'll make 2 points about the game. It may seem a little complicated at first to learn, but we designed it that way so it's multifaceted and strategic, so you'll want to play it again and again. The second point concerns vocabulary. For instance, the Olive Branch Petition. The Second Continental Congress adopted this petition in a final attempt to avoid a full-blown war between the 13 colonies and Great Britain. However, a letter of John Adams was confiscated in which he expressed his discontent with the Olive Branch Petition. He wrote war was inevitable and thought the colonies should have already raised a navy and captured British officials. England used Adams' letter to argue that the Olive Branch was insincere. Now, we could have used words that may have been less challenging for the average youth and teenager, but we determined that a game based on education should push the reader a bit, and if they get stuck, an adult can help them out. We hope you agree. What you see here is what's called a founder's deck. The Liberty game doesn't use a central board in the middle of the table. Each player has a 9x7 card that sits in front of them. The first thing I want to point out is the artistic montage drawn by Greg Rudd. He tells you a story of the life of each founder. On the back of this card, we provide detail of each element of the montage so you understand what it means and why he put it in there. Greg brings his award-winning portrait ability to expose you to a dimension of these great men that has been unfortunately lost over the last 230 years. So if you're a founder and you think back to the time of 1776 and you're trying to gain independence from Great Britain, you needed to have 6 objectives. You needed to, 1, have state support. 2, govern the states. 3, you had to have your own army. 4, you had to supply that army. 5, you had to finance the army and all the other dynamics of creating your own new government and country. And 6, you had to have spiritual fortitude to see it through to the end. These same 6 objectives will be your focus to win the Liberty game. Your goal is to get 2 points in each category. You do so by rolling a colored dice and drawing a card from the appropriate deck. Now you'll notice that there are numbers next to some of the objectives. Just like in 1776, each founder had their own attributes and talents that they brought to the table in order to gain independence. Franklin, for example, by 1776 was already an established, accomplished politician. His ability to garner state support and help disparate ideas forge together for one common bond was invaluable. He was also instrumental in gaining both financial and military help from France. And he had both a personal and vocal dedication to God and his spirituality. Each player starts the game off with 4 coins and 2 bayonets. A bayonet is used to roll dice against one of your opponents and take one of their cards. Be careful, they will defend themselves ferociously. One of the biggest challenges the Patriots and the Continental Congress faced was financing the war. To win the Liberty game, you will have to master the treasury, and it won't be easy. You start off with 4 coins, but if you want to purchase a Liberty card, that's going to cost you 2 coins, and you will be constantly fending off your opponents from trying to take coins from you. Let's say you roll the dice and it comes up blue. Well, that's governing, so you draw a card from the appropriate deck. In this case, it's about John Hancock. Now, most people know John Hancock had the largest signature on the Declaration of Independence, but do you know why? Well, he was one of the earliest and most vocal antagonists in Massachusetts. He and Samuel Adams were on the top of the hit list of the British. In fact, John Hancock actually had a 500-pound bounty on his head, so when he signed the Declaration, he wanted it to be nice and big so the king could read his name without wearing glasses and dared him to increase the bounty. If you drew this card, you can see right here that it says +1 governing. So now you have one of the 2 necessary points to fulfill the governing objective, if you can keep this card. Let's say you roll a red. Well, that's Continental Army. So this card is about the Battle of Brandywine. You'll notice it has a negative point for the Continental Army. Not every card you draw is going to be positive. Sometimes it's negative. Sometimes it allows you to take an action against one of your opponents. Now you have -1 points in Continental Army, so therefore you need to get 3 total positive points to get you to a net +2. I warned you it wasn't going to be easy getting 2 points in all 6 objectives. Allow me to draw your attention to something that's on most of the cards, and that's Ben Franklin's bifocals. Whenever you draw a card and you see the bifocals on the card, we would like you to read aloud everything above it. This way you're not the only player in the game learning the rich history of this particular card. Something you may be asking yourself is, well, what happens if I get more than 2 points in an objective? Good question. I'm glad you asked. In Franklin's case, we already start off with 2 positive points in state support. Well, if you drew this card about the Great Debate, you now have 3 points in state support. This brings out one of the most fun elements of the Liberty game, trading and negotiating. You should look around the table and see which players have objectives that you need help in. Let's say someone has an abundance of supply and you have none. Offer them a trade. Just so you know, you cannot trade a negative card. There's other strategies to use for those. Another thing I'd like to point out is this code in the lower left-hand corner of most all the cards. As you can imagine, we can only fit so much information on a card, especially with this card that introduces us to the great debate over whether we needed to add a Bill of Rights to our Constitution. Our goal is to have a separate website that you could go to, type this code in, and dive much deeper into the subject matter. In the Liberty game, besides covering just traditional history, we also focus on the moral foundations that our fathers so fervently tried to instill. For instance, this John Adams quote, "The highest glory of the American Revolution was this: it connected in one indissoluble bond the principles of civil government with the principles of Christianity." One of the reasons our country became the greatest in history is the vision of not only the challenges our patriots faced then, but what our society would face in the future. James Madison observed, "If Congress can do whatever in their discretion can be done by money, the government is no longer a limited one." Can you imagine our founders' reaction to being trillions of dollars in debt? Or what about Thomas Jefferson's insight? "I think we have more machinery of government than is necessary. Too many parasites living on the labor of the industrious." The challenge Jefferson saw over 200 years ago, I think we would all agree that Jefferson would be shocked and dumbfounded at the size of our central government. I'm going to touch on one more dimension of the game before ending this video. After the first round of rolling the dice, every player is eligible to purchase for 2 coins a Liberty card. These are in effect wild cards and can be, and indeed are, game changers. The Valley Forge Liberty card is one of the most powerful in the deck. It not only helps you, but it strips a supply card from every one of your competitors. The game wouldn't be complete without a sinister Benedict Arnold card, and the player holding this can take 1 coin and 1 card from any one player's hand. We've seen many players on the verge of winning only to have victory snatched away by Benedict Arnold. But it's all in good fun, and that's the #1 objective, besides learning about the founding of our country, is we want you to have fun playing Liberty. Thanks for watching this video, and we're anxious to hear feedback from you, your friends, and family as you're playing the game, Liberty.